Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am on my way to interview Mufti Atiq, seeking to unravel the remarkable journey of how his son Talha became a Hafiz bi'idhnillah. Heading towards Werneth, known as one of the deprived areas of Oldham, this accomplishment is not just rare, but a source of pride for the entire community. Join me as we dive deep into Mufti Atiq's parenting skills, methodology, and family's contribution in this documentary. So, no need for introductions or warm ups. Let's dive straight into the interview at his mosque.
First and foremost, everything's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he was young, so he was only like a year old, we kind of saw that he was into learning the alphabet. And not learning the alphabet by, watching it on YouTube or something like this. Because my mum teaches Qur'an at home, he'd look at what the girls were reading and he'd take one of their qaidas. So then I had to, at work, I printed out a qaida for him, laminated it and brought it home. Just the alif, ba, ta, the putty of it is called.
Yeah.
And I gave that to him and he was like probably about 14 months and he learned the alphabet, alif, ba, ta, tha. So I kind of from there I saw, it looks like he's got, mashallah, he's been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with some kind of intelligence. And from there, he had his own zeal anyway, even just the ABC, he just wanted to learn. And with alif, ba, ta, he just continued like this and he was just learning alif, ba, ta, and then we thought, okay, let's try the next page as well. And before you knew it, by the time he was 2, he kind of like, he'll memorize like Surah Rahman by heart as well. Last 10 surahs. So that was where he started listening to surahs and, listening to recitation. He just like picked up. He's an auditory learner. Just listening to things helps, pick up. And then by the time he was 3, he finished Nazara. He did like Qur'an, the entire Qur'an, looking inside, just before he turned 4. And then, it's crazy. I've got a frame at my house. It's got the 4 quls on those frames. And I just remember one day he was reciting Surah Kafirun. So I said to him, Talha, how have you learned Surah Kafirun? I don't remember you memorizing this. So he said, it's on the frame. So I said, which frame? He said, look, the frame there, the 4 quls frame. So I thought, okay. But then I remembered he learned Surah Rahman as well when he was 2 years old. So I was kind of getting like a feeling that, maybe he could memorize. And initially my intention was he just memorized like the last 10 surahs. He'd memorize, Surah Rahman, Surah Mulk, Surah Waqi'ah.
Those are not short surahs, those are long surahs.
They are long, but because he learned Surah Rahman when he was 2, and Surah Rahman is kind of similar size to Surah Mulk, similar size to Surah Waqi'ah.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe he'd be able to do it. And then I just asked him, I know he's mashallah because he's a bit intelligent. You can have those kind of conversations with him. So I said, Talha, what about, do you want to memorize? And what really helps is a lot of my nephews, alhamdulillah, my niece as well, they're also all Hafidh, they've memorized the Qur'an. And he knew his cousin sister, his cousin brothers were all either doing Hafidh or they were almost completing Hafidh or somebody already completed it. So he knew what Hafidh was, he knew the kind of the way it works. And he really wanted to do it. He wanted to memorize. He's got this he had this zeal. And he still does, mashallah, tabarakallah. And so we just started him. And, initially we were just like the last 10 surahs. But when he did the last 10 surahs quite quick, I thought, something, he's quick. So then I spoke to him. I spoke to my parents as well. We discussed as a family, like, he's got the brains, should we do it? Obviously my father's also the imam, and he's been teaching for a long time. And he was a Hafidh teacher as well, many years ago. He taught us, we did Hafidh with him. So he said, look, your intention and your idea is good, but he's only 4 years old. Are you sure about this? Because it's quite intense, and Hafidh is very intense. I mean, I've been teaching Hafidh for 13.
It is intense.
I've been teaching it for 13 years myself in the Masjid, and it is very intense, for the children.
It's very time consuming. A lot of hours go behind it. A lot of dedication from the Ustad and the
I always say whenever it's like a triangle. It's like a triangle, with 3 sides. You've got the parents, you've got the children, you've got the teacher. All 3 of them have to be working together. You take out one piece from that. If the child doesn't want to learn, the parents can want it and the teacher can want it.
But in this case, you're the teacher and the parent.
So
2 sides.
Yeah. So like instead of it like being like I don't know, I'm not a maths teacher, but an English teacher. But the triangle example, I don't think you can get 2-sided shapes. But that's what it was, and it does take a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of hard work. So that's why my father was warning me, saying, "Look, are you sure about this? Because it's not the same. I teach normal age students."
He wasn't trying to stop you, was he?
He was concerned. Obviously, it's his grandson, and he was saying, "Look, he's still young. obviously there are stories of people doing hifth at a young age, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which are all very young age, 11, 12. These are still young ages, to memorize the entire Qur'an, 6,000 plus verses in a language that children don't understand. It's a big thing. But then he said, if you think, so then to be honest with you, it sounds crazy, but it was Talha's decision. He said, look, I want to do it. Like, it was just, I want to do it. So then I said, okay, then if you want to do it, Bismillah, let's go for it. And we started. So it was as soon as he turned 4, so he'd finished the Quran. We were still in 2 months. Then we thought, chalo, he's turned 4. It was around about Ramadan time as well. And we said, right, Bismillah, it's the month of the Quran anyway, and let's just do this. And then he started, and Subhanallah, it took him less than 3 years, which in itself is a massive achievement.
Less than 3 years.
Less than 3 years, about 2.5 years to do it.
I came here a long time ago to teach, and I was just walking around here to get some interviews of local people, and I've managed to happily, alhamdulillah, meet you today.
That's a very good thing then, isn't it? MashaAllah.
And I'm sure you've heard about our local boy, Mufti Atiq's son,
Yes.
who has become a Hafiz, 6 years old.
MashaAllah, it's the proudest moment for me when he shared it with me, Mufti Atiq Sahib, and I'm sure it's the proudest moment for the family.
Yeah.
And the greatest, proudest moment is for Werneth, for the community. And I hope from this, as a 6-year-old child, becoming a Quran Hafiz, hopefully, inshallah, it should inspire more parents with their children and make them,
Of course. Parents are very curious about how these parents obviously got a 6-year-old to be a Hafiz. Now, having a religious, educated background in terms of family and extended families, supporting and motivating and encouraging their cousins or their nephews or whatever it is to carry on and stay steadfast. But how can average parents, average everyday folks, can implement some of the knowledge and skills?
Well, hopefully, inshallah, as you can see from the background, we have got a masjid that's been built. Yes, we've got plenty of masjids that's built in Oldham, but this specifically one that inshallah, we're hoping that it would cater for the youngsters from the age of 4 or 5 year old. And we've got ample of room. Hopefully we'll have teachers on board like Mufti Atiq, Maulana Asif, Maulana Aman. We'll get these people on. And not only that we're catering just for the boys, but inshallah, we're hoping to cater for the girls as well. We've got Mufti Atiq's sisters who are alimas.
Yeah.
So we're catering for both boys and girls, inshallah. But see what happens in the future. But it is the proudest moment. And I think it's the proudest moment for every parent who will be listening to this and seeing that a 6-year-old child has become a Quran Hafiz, how much of a blessed that house is, and how every parent would want that in their house.
On average, for a student of 11, 12, 13, 14, so those averages, isn't it? When a guy comes and decides to put his time to become a Hafiz, it takes them about between 2.5, 3 years as well.
Yeah, so obviously you have to keep in mind that it'll take 2.5 to 3 years if they're in like a madrasa, like a Darul Uloom, where it's a set hifz class.
Fully dedicated.
Yeah, here in a maktab where they've got obviously 6, 7 hours of school, and they've got all those obviously things that's going on. It takes a bit longer, So I've been, like I said, I've been teaching hifz for about 12, 13 years. Alhamdulillah, about 22 children have finished hifz with me here. It takes about 4 years. Some of the children were very quick, and they've got a very good memory. They finish it in 3 years. I had one that finished in 2.5 years as well. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. But you're usually so even the fact that he finished in 2.5 years was quite quick. He would have finished even sooner, but we were very particular with his door, or what you call manzil, or revision, because
right. Just to explain that further, I'll read you do.
Okay, so when you
sabak para and door.
Yeah. So sabak para and door, or sabaki manzil, or sabak and muraja'a. So we have Arab children in my maktab, so we call it muraja'a as well. So sabak is what you're learning new. So for example, let's just say you started Juz Amma and you're learning Surah Naba. So you learn the first, say, 5 verses of Surah Naba. So that's your new sabak, new sabak. And then you continue. So the next day when you come in, what you learned the day before, you read that first to the ustad, or you read it second, depending on how the teacher does it. That's called sabak para or sabaqi. So the juz or the para that you're currently memorizing, that's your sabak para or sabaqi. Sabak para, the para that you sabaks in. And then door or manzil is once you finish 30th, you've done first and second, you're on fourth. So the fourth is you're learning new sabak in fourth juz, fourth para. You're learning sabak bar or sabaqi in fourth, and then third, second, first, and so you're doing 30 as well. That's your door or manzil. So you do maybe half and half a day, depending. Some places do quarter, some do a bit more. So that's door. So that's very important, because what happens, you can fall for the trap of just learning new sabak and leaving the revision behind the door, the sabak para.
So what happens usually when kids do want to become Hafidh, and they learn the first para, second para, third para, but as they learn the new sabak, they're not really giving that much emphasis on the sabak para, and they're not giving less emphasis on door itself. So the more they're learning, the more they're forgetting.
Yeah, so I mean that's why it's very important for it to be in an actual, set hifz class. But to be honest, to be fair, every hifz teacher around the world, I think, has more or less the same kind of method of doing. There are some like the Turkish method and the Medina method, etc. But I think the general principle is the same. You have what you're learning new and your revision, because there's no point. You're not a Hafidh if you complete the Qur'an. That's not being a Hafidh. It's knowing from the back, knowing the door, being able to recite. Leading Taraweeh, for example, you can't do that if you don't know your revision. So because I was quite strict on that, plus first for the reason that you're not really a Hafidh if you don't know your revision. Secondly, is that it's just a very big headache afterwards. And so you could finish, and then revision door is really difficult.
So specifically with Talha, what were the challenges with him, because he's only 6?
Yes, obviously the first challenge, because he's so young. He's still a kid, as in he might be doing hifz and stuff, but a kid's a kid. He's still got the same habits of a kid, the same desires. A kid just wants to play, and he just wants to and obviously he's got a younger brother, younger sister as well, so he just wants to play with them, and they want to play with him. Obviously, he wants to play, PlayStation. He wants to go on the screen. He wants to play games. He wants to read his books and all the rest of it. He wants to play football outside. So you had all of that. Obviously, with memory itself, though, because I think it's the age of 9 or so, your long-term memory starts to really solidify. So then before that, it's kind of difficult to remember a lot of the things that you do memorize. You still remember it. It's still there. Not as good as later on, because your long-term memory is still developing. So there was that difficulty. But alhamdulillah, it was basically the best that we could do with him. Like I said, I could have probably finished. He could have finished probably about another 3 or 4 months ago. But I was very particular with with revision. I said, look, you have to do this, because the temptation is there. Even as a parent, the temptation was there that he could have finished when he was 5. That temptation was there. But at the same time, then you're just setting yourself up to fail, because then he's not going to know his revision later on. Then you're going to have to start the hifz again. This way, alhamdulillah, even now he's finished, he's still reading door every day, still reading sabak para, so it's like alhamdulillah, and the challenges were there, like as a child, when he falls ill, some days he's tired, he goes 7 hours in school, 6 hours in school to come back, he's tired and stuff. So we have to make a timetable routine, around that.
In terms of his sort of daily routine and his sort of morning all the way to evening, the kid gets tired, right? So how do you challenge that of being a teacher and a parent, of deciding when to act on, put the teacher hat on, or when do you put the parent hat on?
Very good. So it's very important again, the whole point of this is so for people to be inspired and take some tips from this. It's very important to make sure you separate between being a teacher and being a parent. Meaning that, say for example, like say Talha now, he's reading door to me, or say he's reading sabak para, and he's not reading too well, he's making a lot of mistakes, or he's not learning it, or he's getting sent back learning it again, whatever it is. That's in his sabak time. Fair enough, he's had a bad day with sabak. But once he closes the Qur'an and that's sabak, that's it. You don't bring that into the rest of the
Teacher gone,
teacher gone. Yeah, even at that point you're a parent. Even when we teach our children in the masjid, they're also like our kids. But here even more so, you have to have that clear. No, that was, he didn't know his sabak. That's fine. He had a bad day. Fresh start again tomorrow. Right now, that's it. It's time for his food. It's time for him to play. It's time to do his homework. It's time for read a book to him. That's basically the entire thing.
So basically, the whole play hard, work hard, play hard sort of thing.
No. It's got
no.
Of course. I mean, it's again Islamically, it goes completely against Islamic values and ethos. At the same time, it's literally it's counterproductive.
We will be addressing this point later on anyway, about, because there's some parents who are a bit more too much, and then or the ambition outweighs their sort of responsibility as a father to a son.
Yeah.
But we'll address that soon anyway. But I've actually met I've met Talha, and he's an absolute joy to be with, right? He's a humble boy, very bubbly, sort of happy-go little boy, you know, play with his brothers and sisters, you know what I mean? I go, listen, when I see this kid, how? I just can't imagine. Now, the viewers, unfortunately, are not going to be able to see Talha in this documentary due to parents' consent, and they want to keep his identity a secret for his future. When he grows up, inshallah, he'll decide for himself.
Of course.
Yeah. For now, just to keep him on the line. But he is in the picture, and he's always here, inshallah. So, to carry this segment, we're going to spend this 5 minutes with rapid questions. That there's people who have come to me, and also you as well, local people, people who are ulama, local guys, shopkeepers, and you know, all the parents, mothers, fathers, asking me some very common questions about how you did it, what did he eat, basically, what was his diet?
Just so standard diet of a child growing up over here who's Asian but still growing up in this country. So he's having his we call it salad, your curries and chapatis, and still having his pizzas and his chips and crisps and drinks and stuff. But obviously everything within, that I'm quite particular about the gym and nutrition. Similar with Talha, we made sure that he was having too many. I mean, sugar and that kind of stuff isn't good for the brain anyway. In terms of, I think it does impact the memory. I'm not a science teacher, but I'm sure it has some kind of negative impact. So he had just a standard diet, obviously, take out once a week, but normally, a Monday to Saturday, it was just a standard normal food, porridge in the morning before he goes to school, come back from school, have a normal meal before he goes to sleep, having Weetabix, but obviously really laying off. Still having sweets and having his chocolates, but all in moderation, which I think, not just for him, for anyone, it should be like that.
Good balance, inshallah.
Later, I catch up with Mufti Atiq as he takes his son to his weekly football practice, showcasing the balance between religious education and everyday childhood activities.
So I've been bringing obviously football practice for a number of months now. Come over here with Next Gen, the brothers here based in OBA, and it's really important. And I think sometimes what happens is when it comes to with getting our children to memorize Qur'an or anything else. Some parents make the mistake, of thinking that anything which is extra, is taken away from that time, and is going to make him tired, and how he's going to read. But overall, yes, he's going to go now. He's going to be tired, but the overall benefits outweigh that vastly. Getting that run around, and even for him, to be honest with you, he knows on a weekly basis that he's coming over here. He's playing obviously in school as well. It's a good incentive, for him to read. Because he's a kid in the day, so he gets a bit lazy. So you say, look, Talha, you've got football in 2 days, you've got football on Sunday. He wakes up on Sunday morning, he's like, no, let's just chill. And he said, look, we've got football later, you're gonna chill there. And he has about an hour and a half here. So I found it really beneficial. I do think, for parents who are, thinking of, doing hifz with their children, the exercise is important. It doesn't have to be football. It could be swimming. It could be just running in the park. It could be, playing on their bikes or anything like that. But the physical exercise is extremely important, I think. Just to kind of give them that healthy kind of lifestyle anyway. And then on top of that, obviously, if he's healthy, the body's healthy, his mind's healthy, his brain's healthy. It's gonna help him. It's gonna be an aid for him when he's memorizing his Quran. So that's the reason why I got him into. Plus, he likes football anyway, like I mentioned earlier. It's a sport he likes. He likes football, and if he likes it, why not? I do think it's extremely important that we find that balance, the right balance. It's not just Quran. He's just reading Quran, or he's just reading the books. In terms of the kitabs, if they're studying some books, there has to be that balance. Even when we studied, we had that balance, of playing and getting physical exercise in, as well as obviously studying. And I think it's really important, that balance.
One of the common questions that I got from actually your local guys, right, is how did you manage Eid holidays and cousins and stuff, like with family and stuff?
Of course, yeah. So alhamdulillah, he's got a lot of cousins, all my brothers, my sisters live over here in the country. Obviously, some are in Liverpool and London, but a lot of us are here. My mum and dad are here as well, in the same locality where we are. So the main thing is that whenever we're planning to go out, normally it's weekend, because during the week, again, all the kids are reading sabak. which really helped because all, like I said, his cousin brothers and sisters are doing Hafidh as well, or they're learning Qur'an. So it's the same routine. It's not like he's reading and no one else is reading. Everyone's just reading anyway. And then in the Masjid as well, everyone's just reading. He knows I'm going to teach in the Masjid. He knows that his aunties are teaching, his grandma's teaching, his uncle's teaching. It's just that thing. So that kind of what helped was we have obviously like a set routine. So say we're going out on the weekend to family's house, he'd read before we'd go. And then catch up the day after, So it's all about planning. It requires a lot of planning, but once you follow the plan, it's very, very easy. It's just basically making sure that, see, I know tomorrow I'm going to miss 5 hours, so today we're gonna read this extra. You're going to read a bit of extra door today because tomorrow we're going to miss out. I'm just kind of like working around that.
I think you've already answered. When did he start Hafidh?
Yeah. So like I said, just literally as soon as he turned 4. As soon as he turned 4, we started.
As soon as he turned 4.
4, yeah.
4. 4 obviously be older, but you already saw signs.
Definitely, I said it when he was like, so when he was 2, he'd memorise Surah Rahman just by listening to it. I mean, that kind of showed that he's an auditory learner, but at the same time, he showed that he could memorise.
Oh yeah, one of the questions that I also got from so it's not a common one, but people always refer to as the connection or the correlation between intelligence and memorization. Are they connected?
No. As in, again, no, I don't know about scientifically. I'm talking about data-wise. My own 13 years, like I said, I've been teaching Hafidh for 13 years, and myself, I'm Hafidh of the Qur'an as well, and I've seen no connection whatsoever. There might be children who are intelligent and have good memory, but that might just be, as in they're just blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I've seen a lot of children who were academically very good. So, I've had students who have gone to university, studying physics, chemical engineering, getting top grades, in the A-levels and GCSEs. But when they couldn't even memorize like the last quarter of, Juz Amma. Do you get it? But they were very intelligent, and I've seen others who weren't so bright in school, but they finished Hafidh by the time they were like 13, 14. With me here in the Masjid. So personally, in my own personal experience, I don't know scientifically, my own personal experience, I've not seen any direct link. Because I've had children who have been very, academically gifted, but not able to memorize, and vice versa. Those who weren't so good academically, or even normal when we were doing, books in the Masjid, not very good with the books, but when you came to memorizing, mashallah, they're flying. Yeah. So I've not seen, that link, to be honest with you.
Right. Next question that I got. This is actually from a kid. He said, "Does he have screen time?"
That's a good question, yeah. So again, I don't know if I mention this now or later. I've got a book. I'm going to talk a bit about screen time and stuff like that there as well. With screen time, again, anything. It's about moderation. I think that's where we as parents, in general, just kind of we mess up there. Not as parents, even as adults ourselves, we spend too much screen time. Anything in moderation is fine. Anything above moderation, medicine is good for you if you're ill, but if you're going to be drinking a full bottle of paracetamol or whatever it is, or having 50 tablets, it's not going to be good. Similar with screen time.
I guess it's not easy nowadays, but every kid has got some tablet, screen, games, YouTube, something.
Yeah, so obviously Talha doesn't, like I said, obviously going off my own, again, personal experiences and from what I understand and from experts actually, screens are good for kids. Having unfettered access to screens is not good. Whether it's an iPad, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a screen on it's no good. Obviously, it's the 21st century. You can't avoid it, as in you have to live with it. In school, they're doing work on screens, and at home, they obviously are screens. We're also watching football, or we're doing our work, marking books. We're on the laptop, so there's screens there. We've got phones as well. So obviously, it's unrealistic to think that a child will never have access to it. But it's all about moderation, So for Talha,
under supervision.
Under supervision. So for example, him now, Monday to Friday, he doesn't have screen time. As in, not actually set screen time. It was like, say, when he's eating his food before he goes to bed and stuff, and his little brother's watching something, he'd watch that with him. Or sometimes he'd play games online. I know on my phone, those 2-player games like Connect 4, something like this. That's what he'd have. But actual screen time he'd have on the weekends. So Saturday, Sunday, he'd have an hour on Saturday, an hour on Sunday. He likes playing FIFA. Right. And Rocket League, so just So
I've played that one. I've played that.
Yeah, he's better than me.
Now let's hear directly from Mufti Atiq as he breaks down his teaching methodology tailored specifically to Talha.
So today I want to kind of just look at, I just want to go through everything, how we did sabaq, how we did sabaq para or sabaqi, and how we did door or manzil or muraja'a, and then also some of the techniques that we changed, we adapted, and we kind of tweaked slightly to get better results, inshallah. So we'll just get straight into it. For example, now I'm on Surah Tawbah here. So in Surah Tawbah here, again, first, if you can see these markings, okay, so if you can see the markings here, like this, these are the mistakes. So again, mistakes are completely normal. You're going to make mistakes. Anyone memorizing anything is going to make mistakes. So here, for example, any mistakes that he makes, we circle the mistakes or we put it in brackets. Some people underline. In Arabic or Urdu, you normally underline. Overline. You don't underline. You make the line on top. Brackets I found easier for Talha, so I used to overline previously, but then I realized the brackets made it easier for him to see exactly what the mistakes were. And the reason why the mistakes need to be marked is when he's learning it. So for example, let's say Talha now, we'll get to new sabak and the rest of it. I'm just talking about door and sabak bar or anything which is muraja'a, revision. So if he's learning, this is Surah Tawbah. So he's learning from كيف يكون للمشركين عهد عند الله وعند رسوله. So when he's learning this, what Talha would do is he would learn one line at a time. So he's learning the first line, كيف يكون. So when he comes to عهد, so he'd be reciting, he'd be off memory, so he'd be saying كيف يكون للمشركين, and then he'd come to عهد, then he'd say عهد 5 times. So he'd say 5 times looking in عهد 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 عهد, and then he'd look up and say عهد 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 عهد. Then he carry on عند الله وعند رسوله, and then وعند رسوله وعند رسوله, he'd say it 5 times off, basically not looking inside by heart. Then he'd repeat the entire line, so you say the line again, كيف يكون للمشركين عهد عند الله وعند رسوله, inside 5 times, and then he'd say it 5 times again, كيف يكون للمشركين عهد عند الله وعند رسوله, and he'd repeat that 5 times. Then he'd do that with the next line, and the next line like this. And then what he'd do is, when he'd come to the second line, after he'd do the same thing there, then he'd read those 2 lines together. Then he'd learn the third line, the same way he learned the first line. Then he'd learn the fourth line. Then he'd put those 2 lines together again. Then he'd learn the 5th line, and after he'd learn the 5th line, he would put all 5 lines together, and then he'd recite the entire 5 lines off by heart.
Muhammad Bello Dahiru, youngest Quran Hafiz, fascinates Nigerians. Mohsin Siddiqui becomes a Hafiz at the age of 12 years old. Haja Fatima won first place in a Hifz competition against young people at the age of 77. It took 14 years for the 2 elderly people in their 70s to become a Hafiz. Yusuf Aslam, a 7-year-old boy, becomes a Hafiz. Namir Khan, age 12, completed his Hifz in just over 2 years. Wheelchair-bound, visual impairment, leg atrophy, becomes a Hafiz. Ethiopia has 218 officially recognized Quran schools. A young girl from Kashmir has created a world record by becoming Hafiz the Quran in just 25 days. China has a Muslim population of 20 million. They have 39,135 mosques in China.
Let's get a good picture as to the connection or the contribution, because I know for a fact, because I spoke to you earlier on, and you also mentioned, and people are definitely curious as to how did your missus contribute
What
to all
role
this?
she played, yeah.
And I know she did, but without me saying, I want you to tell me.
Exactly. So yeah, so you know, the reality is, you know, it was a team effort. It was a team effort. I can't. If I sat here, I'd be lying if I said it was just me and Talha. If it was just me, not Talha,
Taking all
just
the
Talha.
glory, yeah.
Of course, I'd be lying, you know, and that's wrong. And also Talha knows best, but you know, his mum played a massive role, a huge role, in the sense that, you know, I said that I teach in the masjid. You know, so when I come back from work, then I'm going to literally come back from work. Some days, the days I finish late, straight back from work, grab my cup of tea, and go straight to the masjid and start teaching it, you know, in the masjid. So what would happen is, in the mornings, I'd wake up with him. So obviously, I said I've got 2 other kids as well. You know, my daughter, she's just a year and a half. So what would happen is, in the mornings, I'd wake up early with Talha. So he'd go to sleep early as well. He'd be in bed for 8, 8:15. He'd be asleep, you know, 7:30ish. And then in the morning, I'd wake him up at 6 o'clock. Alhamdulillah, he'd get like about 10 hours of sleep, which is more than enough for his age anyway. I'd wake him up at 6, and I'd read with him, you know, until basically school time, until his mum would wake up, you know, to make breakfast for him, you know, before he goes to school. And what would happen is, I'd read Sabak and Sabak Bara with him, get that finished before he goes to school.
Right.
And then obviously,
So while you're doing sabak and sabak para with him in the morning, she's making breakfast.
well, she knows she's asleep.
Oh, she's asleep?
She's asleep.
Okay.
Literally waking up obviously for Fajr, and then just getting getting breakfast ready, because I'm going to the gym and I'm only having a protein shake in the morning, so there's nothing to get ready for me. Just getting breakfast ready for him, getting his packed lunch ready for school, and then she's just basically doing for the next 5 or 6 hours while Tala's in school. There's nothing for me, because of the gym, I'm just having protein shake. When I come back before work as well, I'm just having a protein shake, or I'm having some protein Weetabix or some eggs. That's all I'm doing. I can do that myself. And that time while he's in school is for her to, whatever she needs to do, get everything done, or whatever she needs to get done, or she wants to sleep, or she lost sleep at night because
rest for her is also very important, because she has 2 kids at home as well.
Yeah, of course. And obviously whatever else that she needs to sort out. She wasn't working, she was at home, so this gave her that basically that luxury of, I can just sleep all the way and wake up for Dhuhr, for example, and then get ready, or I could just get things done now and then. Basically she had all that flexibility, so that when Tala would come back from school, obviously she'd feed him, he'd get changed and stuff, and then he'd read Door or Manzil with her. And obviously
when?
So he'd probably start about 4 o'clock.
Right.
He get back from school at 3:15, so we live close by anyway. He's home for like
a little light
yeah.
snack,
No, a full meal.
Full meal?
You need a full meal, because
after school, full meal.
Yeah, full meal.
Bit of rest.
Yeah,
and
then he's
Door.
reading. Door. So Manzil, that's what he's reading with her. Yeah, with her. And then basically that's what she's doing. After I'd finished in the mosque, sometimes I teach in the madrasa as well. But we had basically the rule was that there's nothing, as in I don't need any food or anything like this, to be ready for me waiting when I come into the house. The main thing is still has Door, his manzil. That's the most important thing. Whether he finishes at 6:30, whether he finishes at 7, whether he finishes at 7:30, whether he finishes at 7:15, that's irrelevant. He just needs to do Door and manzil. You don't worry about anything else. Obviously I do the shopping, I do all of that. I'm going out to work and all the rest of it. So basically that really helped, because it gave her that time during the day to do what she needed to do, rest, or and obviously with the two younger children, and then allowed her to dedicate that time fully to Talha. So to be honest with you, again, for those who are watching or Hifz teachers, Door is more difficult, because some part of the reading every day, some part of the reading every single day. Door, like I said, if you've done, say once you've done 20 or 25 paras and 25 ajza, even if you're reading half a juz a day, half a para a day, you're only reading 3.5 paras a week. By the time that comes around again, it's another 5 or 6 weeks. So that's the more difficult bit. So again, like I said, all credit. The more difficult bit was done by her.
Yeah. It's amazing because I don't think it would have worked if your missus was working.
The reality is, for me in this situation, it wouldn't have worked, because if she was working, come back home and you're tired from work, is she going to listen to his Door? Is she going to do whatever she needs to do with the 2 kids? And
she'll be too tired.
No, of course.
2 kids.
It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic.
It's just too much to handle. No. And you mentioned before, if I'm allowed to say this, that you've sacrificed the financial aspect as well to make sure Talha, his progress is being made.
Of course, because it's basic maths. You don't need to be, you don't need to be an accountant or to know that if there's 2 people working, there's more money coming into the house. But it's about priorities. And personally, my thing was that I want him to become Hafidh.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah. Right, let's move on to the next part, and I want to talk to you about a controversial, without being controversial, is that because you've told me behind the scenes as well how you and your wife have dedicated a lot of time and effort, and the methodology of how you approach to make your Talha Hafiz. But there's also some cases where parents do have good intentions of making their son or daughter a Hafiz, but it has been known sometimes that they are too strict, and they sort of sacrifice the child's childhood or the bond between a father and son or daughter.
So again, I'm drawing back on my experience of teaching his, not just to Talha, but again in a local setting for 13 years. It's definitely something that parents need to understand. Not every child is going to become a Hafiz, nor does Allah ask us of that, nor will that be a question of the judgment. The first question you'll be asked is, did you memorize the Qur'an? It's not the case. It's very important for all parents. And when I said to you that Qari Sahib, my father, he basically was quiet. He wanted me, like he said to me, question me, he said, listen, are you sure about this? Because it's not a small thing, it's a big thing, and it's quite intense. It takes a lot of hours, and not everyone can do it. And I think it's very important for parents and teachers working together to identify, can this child do hifz or not? If they can't do hifz, there's nothing to force them. That's not part of deen, to force someone to be hafiz. If they can't do it, they can't do it. It's better, again, my own personal opinion, it's better that a child comes to the masjid, he has connection with deen, he prays the salah, he's a good Muslim, he's got good akhlaq, he's got good manners, good character, he has love for the deen, than he's just forced to, just sit all day and learn Quran. Again, that's my own personal thing. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Personally, I think that would it's not the best.
I've read your book.
Yeah.
Advice to Muslim Parents.
Yeah.
And so this is the second edition, right?
Edition,
And it's a really nice book. And you got some really, really good advice. And, being an author and coming up with these, mashallah, advice for Muslim parents. What advice do you have for parents who aspire to have their children to be Dini or Islamic or Hafiz, alim sort of thing?
So the first thing to realize is that the children are an amana, a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They've been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will ask us about this. The hadith is very, famous about all of us being a shepherd in charge of the flocks, and every person will be asked regarding their flock. So as parents, we will be asked regarding our children. And Islam doesn't just, just constrict that to or constrain it to just feeding them or clothing them. Rather, their tarbiyah is the most important thing. Feeding them and clothing them is us being their parents. Feeding and clothing them is just a basic thing. It's about giving them a good Islamic upbringing, good nurturing, and having good intentions for them, that we want them to be the best, in terms of their closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of their deen. And of course, dunya follows. So this will I'd advise parents, first and foremost, keep that in mind, that these are a trust from Allah. We'll be questioned about this. Every single one of us will be questioned about the children under our care. And then obviously, again, just working, asking Allah for help, looking at examples. We have brilliant examples from the past, from the Sahaba, and from the pious predecessors, and from the earlier nations, and even in recent times, and even in our own times, we see good examples of good parenting techniques and skills. And there are many people even online, Muslim, influences. I know normally people have, but there are some very, positive Muslim role models who have big followings online in this country and in other countries. And looking at the way they approach parenting, we can learn a lot from them, and obviously using what we can and tweaking it, because obviously it's not one size fits all. Just like not every child be a Hafidh. Similarly with these parenting techniques, and even in the book I mentioned as well, as this is not like a instruction manual that you do A, B, C and you're gonna get this result. Rather, you have to tweak it. You have to look at your children. All children are different, and applying these kind of just some of the techniques that are there, tweaking them. So one thing works with one child, it doesn't work with another child. These are things that I think as parents, as you have children and the children go older, you learn. You think, okay, look, that's something that.
Because not all children will have the same traits. They all have unique traits.
Of course.
And the way they learn, either through repetition or visually or by listening, they all learn in different ways at different paces. So I would recommend, because this the first edition of Advice to Muslim Parents by Mufti Atiq, it was a massive hit. He was very humble to suggest only to make 200. Somebody else suggested, we telling the story about to make 1,000. He goes, 1,000 books? What's he make 1,000 books for? But as soon as he printed 1,000 books and he made it available, it was gone. And then the strong advice or the strong encouragement to do a second edition with some adding a few more chapters.
Basically. So there were some points where, because I didn't want to make the book too long, because I know people don't read as much. But then after feedback, there were people saying to me, those who read the first edition said, listen, it'd be better if you expand on that point, because it's a good point. If you explained it more, it'd be better. So to explain that, and then initially I just got it printed out, like just printing pages out. They got a typesetting done from professionals and proofreading, and getting the design changed, making it hard work, getting a forward done by the teachers and stuff. So alhamdulillah, it's even the second edition, alhamdulillah, it's been selling well.
Inshallah,
as well. And
inshallah.
the main thing is selling well, and selling, it doesn't really matter. I wrote this as well with when I did the first copy, I was selling it for like £3 and £2.50, because it wasn't about I have a job. It was more like like a bigger picture. If more parents had access to that, we'll have better Muslim children. Better Muslim children means a better Muslim society and a better society for all of us. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Better community. That's what we're all trying to do. Whether we're teachers, whether we're we're teaching in secondary schools, in state schools, primary schools, in Islamic schools, in private schools, or in the maktab or imams. Everyone wants that same thing, where they want a better Muslim community. And that was literally the reason why I had the idea of writing the book.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة